Oh, this is a remix?
This is the remix, baby. We are in here. What's going, everybody? What's going on, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the political junkies, and we're back in here with another show. And let me introduce my guys: Carlito, John, Gabe, Felipe, and we got a fun show for you tonight. We're gonna do some new things. I want to give you a case study of Max Rose. We're gonna look into that district and see why it went from blue to red. And if you guys like it, and if everyone likes it, we're going to go on and do some more of some other districts. Like our guy Gabe, his district went from blue to red, chalela, and we could look into that. I'm sure, and he could actually probably give us some real life, because he went to a debate, and we could see what really happened. So that could be another show. All right, so let's get right into it. By the way, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. In between segments, we are going to go ahead and look at the chat, give people shout outs, answer any questions. We're going to have some fun today. All right. Anybody got anything to say starting off?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say congratulations to my team that won a Call of Duty season championship for KMF Clan. That's why I'm rocking this today. I got the Atlanta FaZe. That's the official Atlanta Call of Duty team. So I had to represent.
Nice. There we go. All right.
Yeah, so, I'm representing for Carlito today with a Atlanta hat.
Got his Atlanta hat on. Nice. Okay, we're going to get into the first topic today. Here is a look at a few transition teams in history. And we're going to look at Biden versus Obama versus the FDR transition team. All right, so let me bring this up. Boom. So the first one, we're going to go in chronological order. So the first one we're going to touch on is FDR's transition team. Now, if you remember in history, FDR became president when the Great Depression was going on. All right. So here's an article. I just want to read a passage real quick. A lame duck session of Congress convened between December 5th, 1932 and March 4th, 1933. But accomplished very little. Sounds familiar? We're going to see what happens with this transition. The Democrats had a small majority in the House and depended on several Republican progressives, which are extinct now. Have you ever heard of a Republican progressive? Republican progressive votes for a majority in the Senate. Today, the situation is similar. The Democrats... Now, by the way, this article is from October 28th, 2008. So this is when Obama became president, that this article was written about FDR by Robert Rooney. Okay, back to the article. So the Democrats had a small majority in the House and depended on several Republican progressive votes for a majority in the Senate. Today, the situation is similar. The Democrats have the narrowest of majorities in the Senate, with Senator Lieberman, McCain's steadfast supporter, represented a swing vote. In the Hoover lame duck session, there were several declaratory moves to balance the budget, legalize beer, and provide farm relief. As president,
let me say something real quick.
Yeah, jump in.
About Lieberman, because this one of the people I dislike the most in Congress. He was supporting McCain back then. Yeah. Well, in the senatorial races that we had in Georgia, his son was running over here, taking away votes from the Democrats and split the vote. We could have, done a whole lot better over here if it wasn't for him.
Totally.
So it runs in the family.
Yeah, it was him, Lieberman, John McCain. It was John McCain, Lieberman, and Lindsey Graham. It used to be the three amigos back in the day. They were known for being together. So as president-elect, FDR played a balancing act by seeking to placate conservative Democrats, Joe Manchin in our day, conservative Democrat leaders in Congress, along with activist progressives, AOC in our day. No one was quite sure what the New Deal entitled when he was inaugurated on March 4th. If elected, Obama will hopefully refuse to bend to pressures from the Bush administration and will remain purposely vague about the details of his economic recovery program. So we know hindsight now that That did not happen. He did not. He even if he remained vague, it was not because he had some secret New Deal that he was about to pull out of his back pocket. You know, he definitely placated. As we see, as we go on with the stories, we're going to find out. And one last thing with this article, he put development of green job initiatives might find a favorable political environment because in those days there was unemployment was on the rise. So I feel so bad for this article, this author, Rupert Rodney. And as we see below, Rupert Rodney is a fellow in the office of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont. He wrote this article with such hope in his heart that an Obama administration would do such great progressive things. This poor guy. Anyone has anything to say before I move on?
Yeah, I think the gist of the article is basically that in the transition from Hoover to FDR, or FDR really wanted to fight back. He didn't want to really continue what Hoover was doing. So he remained vague in order to not have any pushback and be able to implement his own policies when he get in. The difference with Obama was that when Bush was going out, Obama was pretty much going to continue the same thing. We had the whole TARP deal. We had all the bailouts that started under Bush, but it was with the full understanding that Obama will carry them over because he brought in all those people from Citibank to go into his administration.
We're about to go into that, Carlito. Yep, definitely. Let's go into that right now. So this article in Common Dreams as well, Obama's big sellout. So this is basically a back in time article as well by Matt Taibbi, and it was published December 13th, 2009. So this is about a year after Obama has been president. So Barack Obama ran for president as a man of the people, standing up to Wall Street as the global economy melted down in the fateful fall of 2008. He pushed a tax plan to soak the rich, ripped NAFTA for hurting the middle class, and tore into John McCain for supporting a bankruptcy bill that sided with wealthy bankers at the expense of hard-working Americans. So as we know now, he didn't do anything in regards to that rhetoric. All right, he definitely did not put any progressive policy in place. All right, so this is from November 5th. I want to focus on the transition team in this article, and let me read this. Austin Goolsbee, a University of Chicago economist who had served as one of Obama's chief advisors during the campaign, didn't make the cut. Neither did Karen Kornbluh, who had served as Obama's policy director and was instrumental in crafting the Democratic Party platform. Both had emphasized populist themes during the campaign. Kornbluh was known for pushing Democrats to focus on the plight of the poor and middle class, while Goolsbee was an aggressive critic of Wall Street, declaring that AIG executives should receive a Nobel Prize for evil. But come November 5th, both were banished from Obama's inner circle and replaced with a group of Wall Street bankers.
I mean, that's a lot of words to just say what we already know is that, Democrats are going to Democrat. And you get Obama, who had the biggest progressive mandate in this century, in this generation of the last, since FDR, probably the biggest mandate by the voters, and coming in promising hope and change. And what did he give to the people? Nothing. And we know this. And it was the article, they referred to it as one of the fastest about faces in history, where he got up to that point, and as soon as he got to the dance, he left his date at the door, who were the people that brought him there. And he went and he got, as we all know, an email from Citigroup that pretty much laid out his entire cabinet. And then stuff I learned in this article is that even people that were on the transition team were people that were relatives of people from Citigroup. And then his first big action in office was giving Citigroup the big bailout that we call the Wall Street bailouts. Yeah. So it's terrible. So Democrats are going to Democrat.
Yep, totally. So let's continue.
I mean, this was in
kind of. I do want to give a second and actually give him some credit for resuscitating a beyond dead economy, which is undeniable from the point of the worst economy in the history of the since the Great Depression to what is we're still seeing the effects of one of the stronger economies of the United States with the lowest unemployment rate at that time and the biggest returns of that time as well.
So the problem with the recovery is who recovered. It was one of the largest transfers of wealth in global history, because you had people that lost their pensions, lost all that stuff, and a lot of that stuff didn't bounce back. But in that same period of time, the top 10%, top 5%, top 1% of the country had all their stock portfolios jump and skyrocket, but wages stood flat or went down. So it's who really benefited the most from that bailout. And right now we saw it with Trump with the CARES Act. That was another corporate bailout. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of Biden's first actions is going to be a corporate bailout. It seems that whenever they get an opportunity to pump stimulus into the economy, it's never into the people. And it's always into corporations, when we know that if you pump money into people, they will spend that money and then in turn stimulate the economy.
No, I'm aware of that. And yes, the corporate bailouts are probably one of the bigger failings of the Obama administration, especially in the recovery of the economy. But I wouldn't go as far as to say that no one except rich people recovered from Obama's recovery if unemployment went to historic lows, including people of color unemployment.
But you're ignoring underemployment. Unemployment isn't a stat. I could be employed for minimum wage. That's not a stat of anything. It's what are the wages? Are people living better than they were before? And the fact is they're not. Most people.
Then 2008, when the houses crashed and a lot of people lost their houses, people lost their livelihoods because of the actions of inept Republicans.
Yeah, of course they're better than 2008, but are they better than 2004? Are they better than the previous times when they were, on at least on a slight upward trend? After that, look at what we have today. Today we have a gig economy where a teacher on their off time has to go drive Uber and then has to go deliver Grubhub and go deliver all these things to just try to eat.
You blaming that on Obama? You blaming that on Obama? We're talking about 2008.
We're talking about the recovery to now. The birth of the gig economy came on the tail end of the Obama administration. Recovery. It was a recovery on Wall Street, and Main Street was left in the dust. 5 million people lost their homes.
Yeah,
I won't let you.
I don't think that's completely
Obama's
related.
Record.
Yeah, but I don't like is when people blame Obama for unrealistically. Like, I do not like the guy, but you gotta give some credit what he did well, and then appropriate blame when he did not so good.
So what did he do well?
But what I'm saying, in this situation, you cannot blame him for the gig economy. I mean, what does that have to do with him? Nothing, really.
Thank you.
We could talk about the bailouts and how they were disproportionately positive for Wall Street versus the people. I agree 100%, but don't start conflating other things into it.
What I'm saying is things like the gig economy go into this historic unemployment low, but it's, again, we're ignoring underemployment. You're ignoring the people who don't even look anymore because they've given up on job searching. So you just because you drive Lyft and you make less than minimum wage, you're technically employed. And what we need to do is we need to get to a place where we don't just give credit for something like that. We give credit for improving the living wage, so that not only are you employed, but you're employed and you can survive.
Yeah, so
to work multiple jobs.
Yeah, to Gabe's point, I think he's talking about the quality of the job that came back under Obama. And I think those quality of that type of jobs was not as good as what people had before. So
I mean, I tend to agree in general, but then when it was kind of going off the rails when we started talking about, I mean, Uber and Lyft, they were not then what they are now. So it wasn't really an Obama.
They didn't even
thing.
exist back then, right?
Yeah, so so when you start confusing timelines, I guess,
tail
a
end.
mistake,
I said
whatever.
tail end.
Yeah. All right, let's move on and continue with this article. So I want to, we have already spent some time on this, so I'm going to try to speed up. I just want to point out that, so Michael Foreman went to school with Obama in Harvard, and according to this WikiLeaks, they didn't link back up. Foreman and Obama were not in touch after their time at Harvard until Obama 2004 Senate campaign, when Foreman volunteered to advise Obama on policy. He introduced Obama to Robert Rubin. Now, if anybody remembers Robert Rubin is single-handedly probably the guy that has brought us the biggest crash in our economy, like pretty much crashed the economy. Why? Because he steered the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which is what prevented banks from using their bankers, their customers' money, and to gamble with it on the stock market. Glass-Steagall prevented that, and Robert Rubin helped take that away and allowed the banks to just be deregulated. So there you go right there. And this guy, Michael Foreman, he was the person that emailed Obama's advisor, John Podesta, who headed his transition team. It was caught in the WikiLeaks email that he emailed basically all his picks that he wanted to potentially go into Obama's cabinet. Like a good percentage, a good portion of that people that were suggested went into his cabinet. So I'll read this here. Foreman had served in the Clinton administration and moved to Citigroup along with Clinton's Treasury Secretary, Robert Rubin. Rubin would collect compensation of $126 million during his decade at the bank after helping to deliver the repeal of Glass-Steagall Act, legislation that had previously prevented Citigroup from owning an insured bank, along with high-risk mortgage and investment banking. So, let's see. All right, so let's move on to Biden's transition. And here we have a critic, Nathan Robinson. Unsurprising, Biden's transition team includes executives from Lyft, Airbnb, Amazon, Capital One, Booz Allen, Uber, Visa, JP Morgan. Here is the official website of it's called the Agency Review Team, and these are they are separated by volunteers, full-time transition employees, detailees, and I'm just gonna go right down real quick. Is a whole bunch of people, and you can see their most recent employment, whole bunch of banks. Third Way, that just jumped out. Third Way is a centrist group, think tank. Just nothing to be impressed by. Now, let me move on.
Hey man, this is what we wanted. That's what That's what people wanted Joe, because they wanted a return to Obama. So return to, the corporations running the White House, pretty much.
That's exactly right. John, you want
I'm
to say
surprised.
something?
I'm surprised though, because this is supposed to be the most progressive candidate in the history of our country.
The new FDR, right?
A special shout out on Biden's transition team to Cecilia Munoz, who is famous for defending family separations.
Oh yeah,
so
let's get into that.
You gotta love when you have the true Republican types in there.
So we'll see if she even ends up in the cabinet or in the administration. So here is another person that we can single out. Biden EPA transition team member helped DuPont dodge responsibility. And Michael McCabe, a former EPA official and aide to Joe Biden, led DuPont's defense of the toxic PFAS chemical PFOA. And this is by Sharon Lerner. So, I mean, it's just it's turning out that we are replacing one swamp for another swamp. And there's more notes I have here, but we spent a lot of time. But go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, he did say that nothing's fundamentally gonna change. So
there you go.
So we can, like Carlito said, we can't be surprised. I think the only one that really has some hope here was Felipe, because he was wanting to be like, we don't know what kind of Biden we're gonna get, but now we know, and the people know that it's the same Biden that we have for the last 47 years. So we can't be surprised.
I'd say he's a little bit different. He has an environmental recovery plan. He supports a $15 minimum wage. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different positions that he has moved to.
Does he though?
He'd be stupid not to. And
okay.
like in Florida, in Florida, where it was a ballot measure, it got much more votes than he did. It'd be unreasonable to not support something like that.
I mean, if he's anything like Obama, he will move on a few things eventually, like gay marriage. Obama was late in that boat.
Well, Biden was against it the first time around, so.
Yeah, Obama was like maybe civil unions or something, you know. So they like to, you know, measure the political wins. Once there's enough movement in the grassroots, when they see this political advantageous, then they'll jump on it. So as usual, it's up to the progressives and the radicals to push the agenda and show them that what the people really want, and then they could follow along, you know, because they're not going to really lead.
Here's what they're going to tell us. They're going to be like, oh, in 2024, we're going to have a $15 minimum wage because Mitch McConnell didn't bring any bills and he's not passing it. So it's Mitch McConnell's fault.
Yeah,
but wouldn't it be Mitch McConnell's fault? At least a little, for the most part. If he is ham-fistedly controlling what can go on the floor of the Senate, there's not a lot of room to move there without radical, like, borderline tyrannical action.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. And as we move on, I'm going to give a question to the audience. In the comments below, let us know if you think that the progressives, they, you know, Justice Democrats, Sunrise Movement, Data for Progress, 3 organizations came out with their transition review, and they put up people that they wanted for the cabinet. Now, do you think that we will get one? I'm not even going to ask for 2, 3, or 4. Do you think one suggestion is going to come into the cabinet while Obama has Citigroup have more than maybe 9 people join his cabinet? Gabe, I see you want to say something.
I want to say 0.
0.
Yeah, that is what I say. We're gonna get nothing.
Yeah. So
and we'll talk later about why we think that, and I think it's our overtime.
Yeah.
I want to give out in the chat a couple shout outs.
Hold on, let me do the like and subscribe real quick.
Yeah,
all right,
go ahead.
So with that question, like and subscribe. All right, go ahead.
All right, so in the chat, shout out to Robert Wilson, who's getting us started. He started the dance floor out in the chat. And also shout out to The Love Always.
The Love Always.
It seems to be a Felipe supporter. Thank you, Felipe, when you were making your comments about Obama. So Felipe's got his first supporter.
Nice.
You know, we're going to answer some questions from the chat. Yeah. I think Robert Wilson got it. You know, Robert Wilson was asking if we should go far left after living through the far right. And, you know, one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is moving that overtime window. Right now, what people consider the far left is really moderate centrist in other countries around the world. So when people say, you know, Medicare for all is a far radical idea, that's something that almost all industrialized countries have in one form or another. So, you know, far left might be what some people consider these policies now, but that's only because the right has been so crazy that what what Republicans think is a moderate thing, or what the Democrats think is a compromise, is really something that 20 years ago would be considered far right. So what we need is to push left so that eventually common sense policies could be you know, a real compromise. Right now, we're compromising with ourselves before we even get into the fight. Just like, you know, one of the things I like to say, you know, I said before about appropriate blame is the Obama and the public option. He immediately took it off the table before having the negotiations for the Affordable Care Act. So what he could have done is, even if he didn't care about it, he could have left it in there. So at least you can negotiate. Like if you don't go to a car salesman saying like, I'm just going to give you what you asked for, you come low, they come high, you meet in the middle. You know, so that's what I'm talking about, moving the overtime window.
Like pack the courts, how Biden couldn't even say he would pack the courts in the election, when if he would have just said that, whether he planned to or not, at least it's just a threat instead of just letting them run off, you know. And I think, you know, talking about the popular policies, for example, you know, you look at college, for example, right now college or even a trade school, that's the new high school. In the old days, we all agreed that students should get public school up until high school. And because of that, the high school education was able to get you, you know, a very good job with a very living wage. Now that time has passed, and that high school diploma has been replaced with a bachelor's degree. And today, if you graduate with a high school diploma, you're not going to get the same opportunities often if you don't have a trade or if you don't have something like that, or unless you're like a crazy entrepreneur or something that you make money. But the average person is not going to get those gains, and that high school diploma has been replaced with the college degree. So why not fund public colleges the same way we fund K through 12? We should fund 12 through 16, and then in 20 years, if you need a master's or a doctorate, at that point we revisit that. So it's much better than the indentured servants that we have right now of student debt, and people, being all the way till they retire and they're still paying student debt off. So just want to change the perspective. We don't want to go far left. We don't want to go really far left, like communism. We don't want none of that craziness. We want to keep it to regular common sense policies that when you look and you poll the American people and you take out the names and you take out the parties and you just poll people on just issues, they back the progressive agenda, whether it's marijuana legalization, whether it's minimum wage, etc.
And if you care about economics, funding education, it pays back. It has dividends. It pays dividend in the future because you're educating the workforce, bringing in people that are going to pay a lot of taxes. So, it helps. And, when you say how you're going to pay for it, well, it pays for itself and then some.
Yeah, there's a 7-to-1 return, according to the GI Bill study that was done, that shows that for every dollar we spend on higher education, it's returned sevenfold in taxes. So if you invested $1 into the market and I could give you $7 back, I think that's a bet you want to take every time.
Yeah, because, right now we also getting, a bachelor degree, kids are getting out of college with like $60,000 in debt. And they can't find a job, and then they want to get paid minimum. Some company want to pay the minimum wage, which we know is like $7.25. And then you also like the whole concept of like, well, I put myself through it, I had to pay through it. Like it's not a good excuse to say like, well, because I ended up with $60,000 and I paid for it, that person should do the same. Like,
All right, and our dear leader, Joe Biden, was also the biggest proponent of the bankruptcy bill that took out student loan debt being able to be charged off in bankruptcy. So now student loan debt is the only type of debt that if you go bankrupt, you can't charge off. It stays with you for the rest of your life. And
all right, really so alimony and child support.
Yeah. So Robert put one more question in there, and then I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to move on to the next story. So Robert Wilson, shout out to you again. Said, do you think fascism almost came to fruition in this country? And I would say that a clumsy fascism almost came to fruition, and it's still trying to come to fruition because Donald Trump has not fully conceded yet. He put everything in place. If you think about the mail general that he put in place to slow down the mail, if you think about Mnuchin, and he took steps to try to prevent democracy from taking place. There's a lot of different examples, and even Trump himself, Attorney General, Robert Braun,
who's the guy named Mike Esper? What was his position? Chief of Staff or something like that? Not Chief of Staff.
I think he was the director of the Secretary of Defense, I believe.
I do want to point at even the direct imagery of the Trump campaign, as opposed to the Venezuelan socialist agenda in Venezuela. They even got it down to the red caps. If you go back and you look at the pictures, Venezuela, they popularized the red hats, the red caps.
So I
think
it
goes that far back. I think.
Yeah, to button this up, I really do think that we went down that road, and hopefully we can get Biden in there. The only good thing, and I told my wife this the other day, and I'm going to tell you guys this probably for the first time. I think the only good thing that Bernie was not the nominee was that Biden definitely galvanized everyone, the progressives, the moderates, the conservatives, even though a lot of GOP, they didn't deliver GOP to vote for Biden. But the most important out of those three, as we found out, was the media. He galvanized the media against the media. If you remember, didn't have a critical word of Biden at all. And if Bernie became the nominee, the question is, would his populism have overcame? Would he have pulled over certain people that voted for Trump to his side of the equation? That's the only thing that you could argue with me, but who knows? So,
but wait, what people that voted for Trump voted for Biden? Trump increased his voting. He got 70 million votes.
Exactly.
I think that was a big miscalculation of the Democratic Party. I
So,
think they thought that more turnout meant more Dems, but at the end of the day, more turnout meant equal Dems and equal Republicans.
Trump base grew from 2016. That's how crazy it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. My thing is, if there was more opposition from the media, so for example, the socialism, I would argue that when Bernie went on 60 Minutes and they led the witness and talked about Castro, and it was them that brought this up, not Bernie, but then Bernie bit the bait. He ate the bait, and from there on, they just kept talking about socialism, and that kind of tanked his primary chances from there. And then of course the moderates consolidated and all that good stuff. But having the media on Biden's side, it took away a factor that would have went against Biden. You guys understand what I'm saying before I move on?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
I think there's a good question on Twitch right now. That we have from Dark Sage 9117 says, I was recently elected to serve on my local town council in Massachusetts as an independent. My district is made up of progressive, a few conservatives, and some moderates. The council is made up of all Democrats and then me, the only independent candidate. My question is, as someone who is not Republican or Democrat, but who wants to show that I'm not corrupt, how do I as an independent work with people whose idea are different from mine?
I think you got to base yourself in transparency. I think if you show your thought process to get to your final answer, if you show what input was given to you, if you show what side said what and what side said this and the eventual compromise, that will show what steps you took to get it passed or get done what you want to get done. These people you might not agree with, but at the end of the day, you show your thought process and you show your work, as Gabe likes to say. Eventually you can do what you want to do, and people will see the genuine acts, and people will see just genuine character.
And find areas of commonality, even with corporate Democrats, even with Republicans. In some cases, there are things that you're going to agree on, whether it's like getting out of the wars, whether it's, and that might be a little higher than the local council, but there's going to be things where if you just look at what are popular policies, whether it's a new park, whether it's something, there's going to be things that you're going to find an agreement on and build off of that. As long as those agreements are in tax cuts for the rich, I think you should be in good shape.
Yeah, and I think you should have discussion. I think a lot of the time, some of us, even progressive, we want to automatically X out the Trump supporters, right? Because there's some that no matter what you say, they're going to believe. But there's some that I have discussion with them, and we sit there and specifically just ask them questions about minimum wage, Medicare for all, taking money out of politics. And these people that supported Trump, and they'll be like, yeah, I agree with that. So it's sometimes just having those discussions and reaching out to those groups as well, and not just completely saying hey, because you supported Trump, I automatically just gonna X you out. Then you may get those votes, right? So we get to a party now. It's Democrats. We know that Democrats and Republicans are just basically the same party. So it's about just having discussion with those folks and letting them know that you're not the same as everybody else.
Yeah, I see you, Felipe, but we gotta move on, man. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Wait, let me just add this one quick thing. Congratulations. I do want to say congratulations for running not in either party and for beating the corrupt politician, as you mentioned before. Thank you for making the world a better place.
Yeah, John, did he say his name? Is it
Dark Sage 9117?
No, I understand.
Yeah, I voted for that guy.
I don't know his name.
Exactly.
Filled in my ballot for Dark Sage.
All right. Let's move on to the next question. And I see your questions also, Robert, but we're gonna try to hit that at the next segment, at the end of this segment coming up.
Dark Sage, DM CaseStudyQB.
Yeah. Or you can hit me up at CaseStudyQB@gmail.com. I would love to look you up wherever you were elected. All right.
Oh, we'd love to put him in the progressive war room.
Oh yeah, in the progressive. Was it not the progressive war room? I would love to have him in the gauntlet. Let's see. I got to get people in
People's Gauntlet.
The People's Gauntlet. All right, let's move on. Is Biden backing away from his marijuana decriminalization promise? And this is an article right here. Marijuana reform omitted from Biden's transition plan on racial equity despite campaign pledges by Kyle Jaeger. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I put a lot of highlights, but I really meant to just highlight these two paragraphs that I'm just going to say. The page says Biden is working to strengthen America's commitment to justice and reform our criminal justice system, and lays out other specific promises that were often mentioned on the campaign trail alongside marijuana reform, such as ban on police chokeholds and creating a national oversight commission to track law enforcement abuses. But cannabis reform is nowhere to be found in the transition team document. In contrast, a still live page on Biden's separate campaign site for his plan for Black America that he rolled out while running for president includes the pledge to decriminalize the use of cannabis and automatically expunge all prior cannabis use convictions. And I went to that website right here. This is it right here. So at the top, it says lift every voice Biden plan for Black America. See, the official website is here. See if I could go. Did I highlight it? Man. Oh, there we go. And then here it is. Reform sentence. He will end once and for all the federal crackdown on powdered cocaine disparity, criminalize the use of cannabis, and automatically expunge all prior cannabis use convictions, and end all incarceration for drug use alone, and instead divert individuals to drug courts and treatment. So what you guys think about that?
I want to start off by saying it would be unbelievably stupid, just of the worst presidential choices to make, to back away from this policy, because it has very little negatives besides some optics with the older crowd and religious crowd. In every state that marijuana was a ballot measure, it passed with more votes than for Joe Biden. Every single state. Not by one, not by a little bit. It's clearly a bipartisan favorable policy. So there's, for that, on that side, there's no reason not to go against it. Economy wise, it leads to so much for the states that have legalized it. In California, they have an excise tax, and that gives funds for the state to use to help reparations or to help people with drug addictions or rehabilitation. It's just a positive almost all across the board, except productivity may go down just a little bit. But
you understand we're talking about Joe Biden, right?
All right. Let's not push stereotypes over here, man.
Out of personal history.
Anybody else?
So no, I was just gonna say that this is kind of, when I threw up the zero before of what we're gonna get from Joe Biden, this is a nice example of that, because it's also why I said when Felipe was talking, is he really in favor of the $15 minimum wage? Is he really in favor of marijuana legalization? Because I only heard him say it once, that he was in favor of $15 minimum wage. Mm-hmm. And as somebody, it's like saying when Bernie was running on Medicare for All, he said it all the time. When they kind of tricked Joe into saying $15 minimum wage, and he was kind of like unhappy he even had to talk about it, because I don't think he's really for it. I don't think he's for marijuana legalization, despite it being in his campaign. I think it's more
not legalization. Decriminalization.
Decriminalization.
He's against legalization.
Legalization, anything related, medical, whatever it's going to be. Like, I just don't believe that they're going to do anything for us in that regard, whether it's anything, not even the slightest. If it's a semi-progressive thing, I don't think it's going to pass, unless it's something that's what's the word? Something that's just like for show. Like, for example, like gay marriage, like they'll give that because that doesn't affect any of the donors. It doesn't affect anything like that. So they'll give you that win. But when it comes to actual economic things and things like that, they're not going to give you anything.
I think over the past few years, it's very clear to see that a lot of big pharma and a lot of big companies have invested a lot into marijuana. If you look at the ballot measure that almost went up in Florida, it prohibited like at home growing, which very heavily favored the large corporations like MedMen that produce and give lots of and lobbied against it, really. But I think at the end of the day, you have to realize that it's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't unilaterally declare weed is legal. No, it's set to vote in Congress. And if for some reason,
this is what I think of you, Felipe.
No,
Trump
wrote like 1,000 executive order. I'm sure Joe Biden could just write an executive order.
Yeah, but you can't write an executive order that just decriminalize and expunge people.
Yes, he can.
Dude, you can do whatever you want. The thing is, like, again, you want to think like you always want to defend Biden to think like, again, remember whose vice president he was. If Obama didn't give us anything, Joe Biden is definitely not giving us.
Listen, this over here. So some of the things he could do, he could reinstate a version of the Obama era Justice Department memo that directed federal prosecutors to generally not interfere with state marijuana laws, which was rescinded by the Trump administration. Also has the power of the executive. Say what?
It was rescinded by Jeff Sessions, yes.
Yeah, well, Trump administration.
Yeah.
So within the power of the executive branch to reschedule marijuana under the Controlled Substance Act. Unilateral authority to grant acts of clemency, including pardons and commutations to people who have been convicted of federal marijuana or other drugs offenses. He could appoint an attorney general, drug czar, or other officials who would make decisions on how the federal government handles the issue. So he could do a lot of things that he doesn't need in Congress.
You're right. But clemency requires a case-by-case basis for him to look at every single file. He can't just rubber stamp it. Next,
he could do if it's based on marijuana, anything based on marijuana, it could be sweet. It could be large sweet.
Restoring the DOJ guidelines didn't do anything. They still sell weed. I've still bought weed from legal states. It didn't do anything. All it does is make it slightly more difficult for banks to handle weed money.
Okay, well that hurts a lot of the dispensaries.
It hurts a lot of small weed growers. Yes, no, you're completely right.
Yeah,
but that's not something Joe Biden could unilaterally change.
I mean, but as I said, there's a lot he could do, and the part about the banks you already said it right there. He could do it, but also we already know he's going to do it. You already said he would, and that's because the big pharma wants it. Okay, so the people that are going to get hurt again are the people that were in jail for weed, the people of color, and now that the big pharma is going to find a way to profit from it, the people that they might stay in jail. It's just completely unfair.
Yes, but if it's decriminalized, and yes, if big pharma makes their big bucks on weed, does it still not help the people who get expunged and released from prison?
Well, what I'm saying is, you said that he could do a lot of things. Well, Biden could expunge them unilaterally. He doesn't need Congress for that.
Exactly. Felipe, stop defending Joe. Joe being the same for 47 years. He ain't changing.
All right.
Okay,
if there's anything else, we could move on from here.
Hold on, Case.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the deal.
Hey, stop that malarkey. I don't want that.
Come on, man. Will you shut up, man?
Man. All right. So the question I have to pose to the people in the chat, or the question I want to ask in the comments below, let us know if you believe that Joe Biden is going to do anything in the next 4 years, because I think it's pretty much safe to say he's only going to serve for 4 years. If he's going to do anything to move the needle on marijuana on this issue, let us know in the comments below what you think. Like and subscribe. All right, let's address the chat room. I see Robert Wilson and the Urban Progressive are busy chatting it up. Let me see. I just want to put in real quick. Robert Wilson said, first, delete the entirety of the illegal drug list, and then before get the FDA to analyze all illegal drugs to make them safer. Okay, interesting.
I think that's a little hard to do when a lot of illegal drugs being illegal makes them unsafe. Like, they're not going to sell black tar heroin over the counter at Walgreens. They're going to need to. You can't just sell opiates over the counter.
Some premium cocaine, though.
Yeah,
they're going to be selling pure.
That's to counteract the lower productivity from marijuana and increase productivity from the cocaine. It'll balance out.
I know. I would like to see personally decriminalize all drugs, but allow people to go to get treatment, because you don't want it to be our norm. Yeah. To be hooked on heroin or whatever, but you want people to go and get help.
This experiment has already taken place in Portugal, where they had a terrible drug epidemic. They legalized all drugs, and they did exactly that. As you go into these clinics in order to safely use the drugs, they'd give you pamphlets, and they'd say, hey, we need you should go to get your life together, or to do this, especially if you're really on the hard drugs. And it worked. Drug use went down, so it already has been shown to work.
Exactly. The state of Oregon just passed. Made all the
drugs. So that would be interesting. Drugs in Oregon.
So that's going to be interesting
to follow.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to follow up on that and see what the result of that. Maybe a year from now, see how that progressed. And one last question before we move on to the next segment. Robert Wilson also posed: do you think that America should nationalize the biggest companies in the country? Now, I think that's a broad statement, just to do all the biggest companies, but I think there are certain ones that need to be nationalized. Gabe, it looks like you have an opinion. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that. So that is literally, Carlitos, the definition of socialism. And that is not what we want. We don't want nationalization of these industries. We don't want that. That's not what anybody wants. We want competition. We want innovation. We want, all that good stuff. If there was, let's say if there was one area where you really wanted to look at how you could nationalize it, would probably be broadband.
Internet service providers, yeah.
See, even me and Felipe can find something to agree on. Is because right now there's already a corporate monopoly. There's rarely any competition in the areas, and because of that, you have extremely high prices. And you also have low service. You have bad customer service, and it's just like electricity. It should be a utility. So,
I totally agree with that. Go ahead, Carlito.
The only areas I believe there should be some kind of nationalization or heavy regulation is areas where, like insurance, because the profit motive is not to serve the customers. The insurance companies, they make more money by not giving out claims. So that's why one of the reasons I like Medicare for All is because even if you have a private system of care, the insurance part of it could be nationalized or government run, but you could still have healthy private industry of doctors and clinics, as opposed to like the UK, where you have the government controlling also the hospitals, which I'm not saying I'm against that either. It's better than what we have here. But when people say that Medicare for All is just the government run everything, it's really not.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that one. So with that said, we're gonna move on to the next topic. And in the comments below, let us know if you think that I'm trying to think, how should we end off this? Oh, yeah, that wasn't even a segment. That was just a regular question from the audience. All right, let's move on to the next segment. All right, so I'm excited to bring you, this is an experimental segment called the Max Rose Case Study, where we're going to do a case study live with you guys, with the audience, and we're going to see why did a district go from blue to red. All right, so let me bring up this person. Here he is, Max Rose against his opponent, Nicole Milotakis. And we're basically going to keep going through a couple TV ads, like 30-second ads, and we're going to basically look at and see how this is. All right, so I'm going to play the first one.
This is a surprise to all of us.
Yeah, it's a surprise for everybody.
Just ran within this very newscast at the last break. Another one is going to run on the next break, I'm told. One of the races to watch is right here in our backyard, but it sounds more like a street fight than a campaign. Democratic Representative Max Rose and GOP State Assemblywoman Nicole Milotakis are fighting for the one swing congressional district in the city. As the Election Project's Melissa Russo shows us, it's the swings and jabs in the ads that are catching voters' attention, for better or worse.
Hypocrite, someone who says one thing but does another. Example, Max Rose.
It's everything you hate about politics all in one person. Nicole Milotakis, the first-class fraud.
If there's anything voters hate about politics right now on Staten Island, it's these ads.
The ads are driving me crazy. It's brutal and it's harsh.
I don't like the negativity.
Though unpopular, the messages seem to be sticking.
Just like de Blasio, Rose joined the defund the police crowd.
Don't forget about me on Election Day.
Watch as some voters unload on Congressman Max Rose in the ShopRite parking lot.
Don't believe in your politics.
I'll take it.
But you stand with Black Lives Matter.
You got me. You caught me.
Taking your life.
Some of Rose's words on the campaign trail make his attack ads sound rosy.
Hope your political career ends. Bro, I thought you were out of your mind either way, so don't worry. I am out of my mind.
Supporters attribute Rose's campaign style to his years in combat as an Army captain.
He was in the service, right? So it's more like a battlefield.
But it was a peaceful march back in June that could backfire for Rose in this borough many police call home.
The group is chanting defund the police. The Max continues to stay. If I showed up at that rally and I saw those signs, I would have left.
Not only have I never voted to defund the police, every step of the way, I have voted to increase funding for law enforcement at this point by over $2 billion.
The congressman says he was just acknowledging the pain of some young people in the district that day, but he's careful not to praise the movement.
I walked with them.
I would not participate, but it doesn't mean that I can't support ending racism in our country.
That a Democratic politician stopping by a Black Lives event is so controversial here speaks to the deep division in this district.
You're in your own borough and it doesn't always feel like home. I'm voting for Max Rose.
I live in a mixed neighborhood. I'm not sure if my house would get, egged or something if I put a Trump flag.
In this area, you might find more signs about blue lives than black lives. Donald Trump literally looms large here. Republican Nicole Maliotakis has Trump's backing and that of local police unions. Max Rose rode a different type of blue wave into Congress 2 years ago. But now that Donald Trump's name will actually appear on the ballot this time around, pundits are putting Rose high on their list of most vulnerable members of Congress. They say you're the third most vulnerable member of the House. Do you think that's right?
They said I couldn't win last time. All right? And we kicked their ass.
Maliotakis says she can't count on riding Trump's coattails.
In parts of this district will certainly help. In other parts, it may hurt me.
Supporting Trump has been double-edged for the Republican Assemblywoman. When she ran for mayor in 2017, she said she...
All right, I'm going to pause it. I think that's a good amount of information. So I should have warned you that this is the video that I'm going to use to set up the whole case study, and then we're going to go into the campaign ads. But anybody have any first comments on this?
So this guy, Max Rose, he lost the district.
Yeah, he lost in 2020, the general election.
Yeah, I
lost by a lot.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
I don't understand how you can be.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
I don't understand how you can be so abrasive but not stand for anything.
Yeah,
like how do you be a professional D-bag but not support the causes that you care about? Like clearly, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I think totally. A lot of the problems these politicians have in the swing districts is that they don't stand for anything. When you talk about defund the police, obviously he's in a district that probably a lot of police men live, but he has to take the time to explain what he means. If he's just going to back away from it, he's just going to get tarred by his opponents. That's the same thing that they're saying about other races around the country from the centrist Democrats. You really have to explain to people what you mean, what you stand for, and then maybe the voters will understand. I mean, if you lose, you lose. You win, you win. But you're definitely not going to win by being wishy-washy like that. And, we learned that through this protest of the Black Lives Matter, Democratic voter registration surged. And it's because of this. This is a thing that especially the youth care about. And by him being so wishy-washy, he's just basically spitting in the face of his base. So they're not going to come for him, and then he's going to lose, and that's what happened.
Yeah, let me show you the amount that he lost by. So this is the first time he ran in 2018. Max Rose won against Dan Donovan, and you can see is about 11,000 votes here. So that he won by. And remember this number, 101K. So now this, oh, why is it loading? It was just up. All right. So basically, as this loads, there we go. So Nicole won by 136K, and he lost by, we could say it rounded off about 100K. So you can see that the Trump name, who was not on the, well, actually, Trump was on the ballot in 2018. So that's interesting. But Trump was definitely on the ballot.
It was.
No, you're right, John. No, you're right. Trump was not on the ballot in 2018. He was president, but you couldn't vote for Trump. So as we see, Trump is a motivator, and Staten Island is a hugely conservative district. So my question to pose, and we're still going to go on to the other ads, but I'm curious what you guys think. Is it possible for a progressive to win in red Staten Island?
Well, he wasn't progressive. Let's just start off with that.
Yeah. Totally. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Listen, progressive could win. Progressive could win anywhere. The thing is that it goes back to the messaging, right? The messaging, like we know sometimes for us, some of us agree that the defund the police is a bad slogan. Like we agree that their budget should totally be cut and should be allocated.
Some of us.
No, that's what I'm saying. Some of us agree. Some of us think that slogan is fine. Some of us think that they shouldn't, whatever, right? So like, but what I'm saying is that you have to progressive go in with the message, and they go in and they know their district, they know their voters. So when you're a bad candidate, you're always going to lose. So it has nothing to do with like red, because if you look, there was some progressive. Katie Porter, she won on her district, and it's a very conservative district. And she's a progressive. It's all about the messaging. It's all about how you talk to the folks, and it's all about how you get them to understand what you stand for. And that guy didn't stand for anything, so he lost.
I think something the progressives can do to stand out a lot from their competition, and by competition, I don't even mean Republicans, I mean centrist Democrats. I think what they can do is they have to find the magic key. They need to find the magic map, everything, to cut through the Republican truth warping. I think we're headed in a direction that even Obama has claimed and noted recently, that Trump wasn't just like the be all end all. He's a symptom of a very broken system that Rupert Murdoch has worked so diligently to make. He has essentially brainwashed 70 million Americans to the point that they can't hear any sort of logic without immediately resorting to their talking points straight from the mouth of Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity, which, when sued for not providing reliable information, claimed, oh, it's just media. Our viewers know this. So I think it really comes down to, at the end of the day, finding a way to cut through all of that garbage and be able to make your message just direct. No political jargon, no fancy words, nothing. Just explain the things directly on how it works, and people will listen.
All right.
And that's all it takes.
Yeah, let's
move on. One last point. I don't think it's 70 million American. I think there was some in there that just didn't like Biden.
All right, let's move on to this next. And then I want to ask you guys, how would you run? And if you were in his shoes, how would you run? And after this segment.
Look, I'm running against Dan Donovan, but the truth is, he's not the only one doing a lousy job. Mayor de Blasio acts like Staten Island doesn't even exist, and we need to get rid of all the leadership in D.C., Republican and Democrat. Now, saying that won't do much for me with the establishment, but look around. The traffic, the drugs. What's the establishment doing for you? I'm Max Rose, and I approve this message because it's not just Donovan. They all gotta go.
And my bad. This was from his first cycle. I should have said that at the beginning. So this is from his first cycle. I'm going to show an article. This is from the second cycle, a video. I'm sorry. This is from the second cycle.
Because I don't give a damn about the polls, the party.
Let me play it from.
When my country went to war in Afghanistan, I put on the uniform. When Bill de Blasio tried to defund the police, I stood up and said it was 100% wrong. And I stood with President Trump when Democrats attacked him for killing an Iranian terrorist. Because when you kill American soldiers, we kill you. I'm Max Rose, and I approve this message because I don't give a damn about the polls, the parties, or the politics. It's country first for me.
Well, clearly he did give a damn about the polls he lost.
What do you guys think?
Yo, what did I always say? What did I always say? When you're trying to be Republican light, you're not gonna go for the Diet Coke. You're gonna go for the real thing. You can't fake like you're, a Republican in Democrats clothing, whatever the hell he's voting for. Yeah. Nobody's gonna buy that. The people that are voting Republican, they're gonna vote for the real Republican, and the people that are progressive are gonna hate your ass behind. Oops.
Yeah. So
you don't try to convert Republicans. You have to try to engage non-voters and give them something to vote for. That's the recipe for success.
So or give real policies that a Republican that's open-minded could go for, and not just pander to them.
So what would be the messaging? Like, if you were to create an ad, what would you have said differently?
Who you are, what you stand for.
Yeah,
you got it. Like, that's what it is. Like, again, like, if you lose to stand for what you are, you could go back and say, you know what, I lost, but I lost because I did what I stand for. Mm-hmm. But if you go in and you're like, well, I supported Trump and I stood against the Democrats and I don't agree with defund the police, but I walk with the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, what do you stand for? Like, who are you? Like Carlito said, like, they always gonna go for the real Republican.
I think a powerful part of his first cycle ad was he was railing against the establishment, because I know that's something that if I was to run, I would do the same thing. We always chastise or criticize our progressive leaders for not going against the establishment more. Like, people want AOC to call out Nancy Pelosi and call out other people. He's doing that here, right? The only thing that I would, in addition to that, I would add Medicare for all. I would add a Green New Deal. But at the same time, I would need to find out what my district cares about the most, and I would put that forward front and center. So let's say it's Medicare for all.
I think
let's say it's Medicare for all. I would stick with that message instead of adding all the other progressive stuff.
Absolutely.
I would just poll and find out if that's what people need, and then I would hammer that home. Go ahead, Felipe.
I think a lot of the mistakes that people make is trying to pander. I think it's not a pander thing. It's a speak your mind thing. And frankly, I wouldn't have run such an edgy campaign. Sure, that's who he is. He's being himself. But history has shown that attack ads have very little return for their cost. And frankly, don't change people's minds, just increase the divide. Whereas if you speak calmly and you try to show people what you stand for, and you very clearly show your steps on why it works, people like learning. They like knowing things. And if they can know things that let them be smarter than other people, they'll try to listen.
Yeah. It seems like
I'm gonna disagree.
Go ahead, Carlito. Go ahead.
I'll disagree a little bit, because a big motivator for people is fear. And when candidates are telling you, hey, this other guy, he's gonna, kill you. He wants to let drugs run through your neighborhood and robbers, whatever. People get afraid and it motivates them. So I don't know the stats of how effective negatives ads are, but it definitely helps your base at least.
Well, I'll jump in here.
Well, at least the conservative base, I will say, because for a large majority, like, I don't think the negative ads work as well for Democrats.
Carlito, I recently saw an article within the last week or so that showed a brain scan between conservatives and left-leaning, just likely voters or politically active people, and it showed that the conservative brain had a little bit more developed brain section that produces fear, or that interact with fear, which shows that negative attack ads sure work on some people. They absolutely do, but no one wants to vote for someone because they're scared. People want to vote for someone because they believe in someone. At the end of the day, no one likes settling. People like winning, and people like feeling like they're doing good, regardless of if it's Republicans thinking that they're going to help by lowering taxes, or if it's Democrats wanting to give health insurance to people without it.
Dude,
People want to feel like they're doing good.
But what about the people that voted for Trump because they were afraid of Mexican immigrants jumping through borders?
Or socialism.
Yeah, you know what?
Or socialism.
Or
You know
socialism.
what? An attack,
Florida.
a Joe Biden attack ad that says, "Well, Donald Trump is worse. You should be scared of him." Isn't going to work on them.
Well,
There's
I
no
know
reason.
that. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said. The attack ads, the negative attack ads, work more on conservatives.
And let's not forget that 77 million settled for Joe Biden. So let's not say that people don't settle for.
Well, I'll tell you this much.
No, I didn't say that. I said that they don't like to settle. People like voting for genuine. People like voting for what they believe. They don't like voting because they're afraid.
So I'll tell you
this is an
this
exception
too.
because Donald Trump was a genuine threat to democracy. But
yeah,
people voted for Obama because they believed what he said. Sure, it ended up being a farce. It ended up being a little bit not true. But at the end of the day, he had historic turnout because people believed he was genuine and people believed in the good things that he said. At the end of the day, it wasn't we should be afraid of John McCain. John McCain's going to ruin the world. Right. It was
Obama was
I believe I'm better.
All right. So
yeah, but I think your article proves that for conservatives, that message does work.
Mm-hmm.
Or has the ability to
We're not
work
trying
more.
to get conservatives to vote.
But what I'm saying is, in general, you're saying that negative ads don't work, and I think they do in some people.
All right,
and
so let me jump in here before we move on to the next topic. But this is my commercial here for ranked choice voting, because we know in ranked choice voting that it allows, we see the effect of it is you see more collaboration amongst people of like-minded. Mm-hmm. And with like what Felipe said, I believe, I will have to look up the article, but yeah, I heard negative ads do hurt to a certain extent, and it's basically like a race to the bottom. Like who can put more dirt on the other person, the most. And that's what it turns into, where ranked choice voting really incorporates and encourages people to have a more positive message and to talk about what you're going to do for the electorate. All right, so I'm going to move on to this next. Speaking of negative ads, this is the negative ad directly. And you might have thought that the first ad that you saw was a negative ad to Dan Donovan, which was his first opponent in 2018. And then the second ad, he didn't even mention the opponent like this one. He mentioned Bill de Blasio, that it was like a negative ad towards him, but this is a negative ad towards his main opponent right here.
When our kids started dying from the opioid epidemic, all Nicole Malliotakis saw were dollar signs, investing in the opioid companies that caused the crisis, profiting off our pain. That's Nicole Malliotakis, the first-class fraud.
Yeah, so that type of stuff is like who is going to do it the worst. And I'm going to show you some negative ads towards Max in a second. But here's another ad that he had. And let me show it to you real quick.
Seriously, Bill de Blasio is the worst mayor in the history of New York City. That's it, guys.
We can't forget Rudy Giuliani was a mayor in New York City.
That's the whole ad. Bill de Blasio is the worst mayor.
I remember.
What you guys thought about that? I saw that and I was like, okay, this guy's going to lose.
I remember seeing that when he was running.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of that? You didn't tell anybody anything. Oh my God.
That's what I mean. Those kind of ads are him trying to pander to some people that are maybe trying to on the right that are going to go for him. It's not going to work. Like the study said, negative ads could work more on conservative people, but they're going to go for the real thing, not the fake Republican.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to show this ads. These are a couple negative ads towards Rose. So this is what he had to deal
Criminals
with.
hailed as freedom fighters, cops treated like criminals, slapped in the face by pandering politicians. Not just the mayor, Max Rose. Max protested a local precinct, shouts of defund the police. He marched there with cop haters bearing slogans like Blue Lives Murder, all cops are bastards. Max's walking did the talking. De Blasio got the message, gutting NYPD by $1 billion. $1 billion reasons to defund Max Rose. Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Yeah, so that was a super PAC that funded that. I mean, cancel. I'm gonna show one more
like
before.
You said, regular Coke tastes so much better than Diet Coke.
Yeah,
it's just they do it right, bro.
Let me show
when
you
it comes to attack ads,
Max Rose.
They know. They got the right recipe.
I ain't gonna have much good to say about him. I can tell you this: he doesn't care two bits about the people that live on Staten Island and Brooklyn.
He promised us that he was going to support the police, and then he marched with people looking to defund the police.
He marches down Howland Boulevard with them.
He's right up front there, leading the pack.
He gave every New York City police officer the finger.
It is an absolute slap in the face to law enforcement.
As a wife of a former detective, I could never vote for Max Rose.
Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All right, what's your first thoughts on this one?
Sure. My first thought is wrap it up box. I think we already beat this into the ground.
Yeah. All right, so
we get it.
My last point on this is basically this is why politicians are so scared to do anything. Like they're so scared to challenge. Like you had Elizabeth Warren who didn't want to do anything with the pipeline. You know, the Keystone. I think it was Keystone Pipeline. And other politicians wouldn't go out there to help the Native Americans because who knows what type of opposition she could receive, even though I don't see any negatives in doing it. But you see a lot of politicians are scared to go out there and show any type of activism. And when he went out there rightfully to protest for Black Lives Matters, they turned it into a negative on that. Okay, so I think it's time to wrap this one up. So let me put in the question. In the comments below, let me know, how would you have run in Staten Island if you were a progressive? How would you, is there any special techniques that you would use? Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. All right, let's look in the comments. Any questions or anything from the comments below?
There was one good comment from Nancy Vancher that said, I wouldn't put pro killing people in my ads. Talking about how she was pro killing the guy, I forget, from the general.
The Iranian war general,
yeah.
It feels like all the cops live on Staten Island. Like that's how it just, from all those commercials. Pretty crazy.
Where else are you supposed to go if you're undereducated and need a job?
All right.
That's a whole topic by itself.
Yeah, that is a topic by itself. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. I think we're up to the lightning round, 9:42. This is going to be the last of it. And then we're going to keep it moving and end the show. All right. What's up? All right, so the first topic. Welcome to the lightning round. And the first topic we're going to talk about is our man Carlito's favorite team, and he was so proud of his team. Nearly 40,000 people voted at Hawks State Farm Arena in Georgia. Race separated by 14,000 votes. So pretty much the Hawks saved the Georgia election. Carlito, what you got to say for yourself?
Hey, my Atlanta Hawks were trendsetters. They opened up the facility for early voting. Then other teams followed across the country. We had nearly 300,000 people cast ballots in 40 professional arenas after the Atlanta Hawks set the trend and got other teams to come on board.
So you're saying 40, all the other teams are followers?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right.
I wanted following some championships though. So see that.
Wait, are they opening it again for January 5th? No.
So right now they're not, and they weren't open either for the election day. They were only open for early voting. But I don't know if they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be open this time around.
Okay.
Especially with the season coming up, they might actually open up before then.
That's true.
But in any case, I think this was pivotal because we saw the margins in Georgia that made. Pretty much wanted for Biden. Not only was the State Farm Arena a place for voting, it was also a place for vote counting. Nice. It's a large facility that helped facilitate that for Fulton County, Georgia.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next one.
That's an example Democrats could take and say things that they could do better to get more voting turnout.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, you could possibly say that engaging, not just for Democrats, but for everybody. We want people to vote, and engaging your sports teams into it is going to bring out fans that maybe they're not as involved in politics, but they see their teams saying, "Hey, register to vote." and come vote over here. They're going to be like, oh, it's my chance to come into the arena and look around or something. I mean, even though State Farm Arena, people are in and out in like 5 minutes versus long lines elsewhere, but still, it was a great thing.
Awesome. All right, move on to the next lightning round story. Democrats officials lied about role in Alex Moore's smear and internal reports finds. So, Carlito, you read this article. Let's know what you thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. A little bit of the Alex Moore's case. There were some smears about him being inappropriate with students. Completely false allegations started by the College Democrats of Massachusetts. Well, it turns out that the party, I forgot the exact name is, the Democratic State Committee. They were in contact with college students in order to push the smear, and they lied, saying that they weren't. And then they found documentation, they found messages, and they even told them to delete all that stuff. They had a lawyer talk to them about it, and they said, the lawyer said, oh, well, if you say these things, it might come to it could be, he could sue you for it. So instead of not doing it, the Democratic State Committee found a different lawyer to tell them to go ahead and actually help them craft their message and their wording so it wouldn't be as as libelous or as inflammatory, but enough to still hurt them in the campaign. And the documentation that they found was that the party, when they were investigating this incident, they didn't say that they were actually the ones that pretty much started the incident. So they were investigating themselves pretty much, and they got busted now.
Wow. This is just goes to show you hear sometimes, people say, oh, like, so in 2018, when Justice Democrats first came on the scene and we had the 4 people that won, a lot of the arguments was, oh, they just made a blue district bluer. You guys didn't flip any from red to blue districts or anything like that. And you see, this is an argument that's not told about, or this is a point that's not told about when things like that come up, that we have the establishment themselves fighting progressives, fighting people like Justice Democrat. Alex Morse was a Justice Democrat, and you have there last time in the last cycle in 2018, you did have Justice Democrats who were in those red to blue districts, but they couldn't even get past the primary because their own Democratic Party were fighting them. So that's something that's not talked about in the mainstream media when they go against progressives. And as we can see,
they're never gonna talk about that. So, and I think there's a good point that we gotta also make. A lot of people may feel that, why do we always attack the Democratic Party and not the Progressive and not the Republican Party? Like, we know what the Republican Party stands for, right? Like, everybody knows it. They are in the open. They don't hide it. The Democratic Party, we know, they try to pretend that they are for the people, and they constantly be doing to progressive the things that Republicans be doing to them. Yeah. So that's why we constantly attack them.
Yeah, totally. And I want to give a shout out to the authors of this article, Ian Higgins and Daniel Boguslaw. All right, we're gonna move on to the next lightning round. So this is why every state should adopt a mask mandate. And I just want to point out this chart right here. And it talks about no mandate in these 50 states. And then with a mandate is in yellow. So we got North Dakota, South Dakota. They have the most amount of cases. And then you can see wow, that is crazy. So with the mandate, you see the majority of those are at the bottom. And then you see at the top is a good amount of mandates, no mandates. See, they have the most cases.
It's just common sense. I mean, people who think that wearing a mask gives you less oxygen don't get enough oxygen to their brain regardless. I mean, these people aren't running on all cylinders, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, a mask mandate is common sense with a global pandemic that is aerosolized and ruins your lungs and can leave you with a pre-existing condition for the rest of your life. That's just the seriousness. It's just actual facts about the disease. Without it, if you're against it, you're just genuinely stupid. That's it. That's my take.
There was a good TikTok of this girl trying to show how masks don't work. So she took a mask and put like a sink faucet on it and sprayed through the water, and the water didn't even go through the mask, so it backfired on her and wet her all. So it kind of she was going for backfire completely. So wear your mask, be safe, and protect
Don't be an
others,
idiot.
because wearing a mask is the best thing you could do for your neighbor, for your mom, for your dad, for your grandparents. Is just wear a mask. Don't be a jerk.
And that's one of the things that I think is fundamentally a problem with right wingers. They don't have empathy. They're very selfish. So wearing a mask to them, it's all about me, 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 and you're infringing on my rights to not wear a mask. But meanwhile, you're infringing on my rights to be alive, because you could kill me if you don't wear one. And this is all a product of the capitalism and the whole thing about bootstraps and everything you for yourself, because it teaches you not to care about anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So everything is about me, me, me. What does this do to me? How does this impact me? And they don't think about others.
That's Trump in a nutshell, though. That's what he tells them, like, and that's what I think. And that's what I think it cost him the election. If Trump would have told his base to wear a mask, and he would have get all those governors to follow through and wear masks and give people $1,000, he would have won the election.
Yeah. The best way, I think the good way to wrap this topic up was the governor of New Jersey that we were looking at, that clip where they ask him, what do you say to the people who said that masks are uncomfortable? And he goes, you know what else is uncomfortable? When you die.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next topic. So is the Civil War brewing inside the Proud Boys as the top leader says he's done pretending he isn't a Nazi? Now just read this passage real quick. Due to the recent failure of Proud Boy chairman Enrique Tarrio to conduct himself with honor and courage on the battlefield, it has been decided that I, Kyle Chapman, reassume my post as president of Proud Boys effective immediately, Chapman wrote. We will no longer cuck to the left by appointing token Negroes as our leaders. We will no longer allow homosexuals or other undesirables into our ranks. We will confront the Zionist criminals who wish to destroy our civilization. We recognize that the West was built by the white race alone, and we owe nothing to any other race. That's what this guy wrote, Kyle Chapman.
I have a controversial take on this. Ready?
Yeah.
I support it. I think we should fund it. And look, hear me out. I'm going to go back.
We should fund it.
The war that cost the most American lives was the American Civil War. So if we support this division, they might just cancel themselves out. They might just, and then we're free. So look,
I'd rather
you split them up.
I got you.
No. I'm not spending money for them to do that to themselves, though. But here's a picture of the guy, the token Negro that they're talking about, Enrique Tarrio. But
I'm giving Felipe my hat.
Nah, I disagree with you, Felipe, on spending money on them doing that. Yeah.
I mean, they trying to, kind of back away from that guy that said the statements. But I mean, it's undeniable that they have a lot of people with those beliefs inside their group. And, it's shameful the fact that this guy, this Tarrio dude, he considered himself I think Afro-Cuban or something like that. And, he doesn't realize that they don't like him. The white Cubans don't like him either.
Yeah.
So
the Latinos don't like him.
Yeah. So it's like, what, he's just looking somewhere to fit in somehow. He's like a, Latino Candace Owens or something. He thinks by, talking crap about his own people is going to make him popular with that crowd, which it does. I mean, grifters make money, but it's just stupid. He's just being a sellout.
Yeah. I didn't understand it either, but go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just saying, those are truly Trump supporters.
That's him there right there. All right, let's move on to the next. So, the Movement for a People's Party on Twitter put this out. AOC, is this a joke? Biden just made one of the seediest lobbies in Washington his chief of staff, Ron Klein, is a former asbestos industry lobbyist. Is this what passes for a progressive victory in the Democratic Party nowadays? And he's just responding to AOC saying good news and an encouraging choice. So from what I
Was that
understand,
confirmed as a real tweet?
Yeah, we confirmed that.
It's a real tweet.
Yeah, we talked about that. That
Maybe
see, baby, what are you doing?
Maybe she was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
But this is the thing.
Yeah. No, maybe she just got to grease some wheels.
Oh, it could be sarcasm. It could.
No.
Be sarcasm.
It's not sarcasm. It's absolutely because I think other progressives have come out in support of Ron Klein because, from what I understand, the other two people that were in the running were way to the right, I would guess, or were more establishment. And from what I understand, Ron Klein has a reputation for being fair and for seeing both sides, while the other potential choices would have just ignored progressives and they would have pulled a Rahm Emanuel, you know, but they just
what a good strategy.
Yeah,
so you get a bunch of undesirable people and then you put them up against like a regular corporatist, and the corporatist looks like amazing.
No, totally.
This is what I'm talking about, moving the Overton window right there. See, you don't take off the bad choice, so then when you negotiate or whatever, they pick who you really wanted.
Yeah. Totally.
This is where, you know, like we have AOC, like, because I always give her that 80-20, right? I was like 80% of the time I defend her, and that 20% is like, come on, like, you know, you deserve what people be giving you. This is kind of one of those. You should have just like not put that tweet out and just leave it alone.
Yeah, I don't know what Shay was thinking, but hey, anybody could get it. You know, we like her, but you know, she could get heat for this too.
So this is the last video.
So.
This is the last video I'm going to show for our lightning round, and then we're going to wrap it up. Boom.
So the former head of Wells Fargo is now paying up big time, nearly 4 years after its bank allegedly opened fake accounts on behalf of customers who never asked for them or knew. So Jen, the bank itself has already settled up over this.
And this is one of those fines, Robin, that it's a big time fine to a normal person, but it is not a big time fine to somebody who's had this kind of a salary. So this is the man in charge of the bank, Wells Fargo, and this is who was running it when Wells Fargo admitted to scamming its own customers by opening millions of accounts in people's names. That is John Stumpf. Now remember, they opened those accounts without people's permission, maybe yours if you're watching now, so you may still have some leftover outrage from this. So here comes the settlement from the Securities and Exchange Commission, and it is being roundly criticized as very light, at least by consumer advocates. Now, it took 4 years for this to happen. That former CEO does not have to admit he did anything wrong, and his fine is $2.5 million. In fact, one frequent bank critic that I watched tweeted that's probably his annual budget for caviar and wine. His lawyer is not commenting on the settlement. That's obviously a sarcastic comment too by the person. But Wells Fargo itself had to pay $3 billion to the government over the scandal. So a lot of people were astonished by the lightness of the sentence. Senator Bernie Sanders also called it unacceptable in a tweet. All right, let's talk about this.
All right.
Let's not forget that if I open someone's credit card, it's like it's a federal crime with a prison of 5 years. Yep. And this dude under his watch, they made billions of dollars opening fake accounts. Yep. And once again, they just get a slap in the hand. They'll be like,
$2.5 million.
If the punishment is less than the cost, if the punishment is less than the profits, it's just the cost of business.
Yeah.
There's no discouragement. It is what it is. Like these people, they need someone needs to throw a book at them, like every book at them.
No, they need to go to jail, just like everybody in 2008. Just like just how Obama should have put all those people in jail. They should have done the same. Like these people, that's the only way, because all they're going to say is this, like, oh, hey, if we make $100 billion and all we have to pay is $3 billion fine, I'd take that chance.
Yeah, exactly. And not in a Club Fed type of jail, too. They need to go in a real jail where they don't have tennis courts and lobsters and all that stuff. All right, so that ends our... Go ahead, buddy.
And the thing is also real quick, it's like this dude will go and then get like, they were like, oh, well, maybe you get fired. Here's $40 million so you could ask a package for you to go. And then a year later, he'll be at Chase Bank.
And the other part that I never understand is like no admission of guilt. Mm-hmm. So nothing goes on their record that they did anything wrong ever. It's just a fine. And that kind of thing, it just irks me, and the cost of doing business, we talked about this before. I think, that's how HSBC was able to launder money for cartels.
Yep.
And they, making billions of dollars, and then they got fined. Hey, that's the cost of business, man.
That's
so
it.
They literally funding cartels, killing people, making money, and they just get slapped on the wrist.
But you know who gets hurt and who gets put something on the record? That middle-level manager that was forced to open those accounts. They lost their job. They can't probably work in banking again because they blacklist them. But this dude is just chilling.
That's it. He got let go, or he I don't know if he retired or they fired him or whatever, but he's still, I'm sure they gave him a nice cushion, a golden parachute, and now, like you said, he's chilling and relaxing. Yep. He'll be back, right? Yep. All right, that is our lightning round. We're going to wrap this up.
We'll be back next Monday.
We would like to thank everybody else. Basically, like and subscribe on the, like and subscribe. And to all our people in the chat, I want to give them a shout out. Robert Wilson, Nancy Venture, CJ Bendone, our guy Bendone. What's up, my man? And anybody else, the Urban Progressive, thank you for coming and joining us. I hope to see you next week, 8:30 on Monday. Any last words, fellas?
Hey, anyone, any topics that you would like for us to discuss? DM CaseStudyQB.
Yeah, you can email
me. We'll be more than happy to talk about it.
CaseStudyQB
like, subscribe, and share.
Subscribe. All right, fellas. Thank you so much for coming.
Platitudes are in policies. That's it.
And like I like to say, PJ's Political Junkies, we're going to save the world. We pay attention, we stay on top, and we know who to vote for when it's time to vote. Political Junkies, we're going to save the world. All right, everybody. Adios.